reeling from being back. I mean, I guess there's no mistake. I'm back out there. I'm back out in life. Went out to see some relatives for the first time in 3 years on Sunday, and it was really great. One of them was my sister, the person I'm closest to. All the stories we could tell, but like I said, I've seen her on Zoom and Zoom meetings, that kind of thing. But during the pandemic, we had a number of relatives die. I mean, they were and then toward the end, there were like bigger celebrations where people still said, "We're still going to have the wedding. We're still going to have the Christmas. We're still going to do." And of course, cautious me, I stayed out of it. I said, "Look, I'm pleading pandemic. I'm not going." And now it just would appear that as all the mask mandates are falling off the can you fall off the charts? I mean, people are not enforcing them. I mean, I went to New York and did a show, and there was supposed to be some kind of, pandemic protocol. And I saw that sort of one by one, just sort of, they made it optional. So here we are in May. We're back, and but I'm still in my closet. I still do this in my closet. Someone said, "Oh, I see that thing you do in Facebook. Is that like in some studio?" No, it's in a closet. I'm in my closet. Not even metaphorically, in an actual closet. I see my old suits as tombstones to my past. Oh, I can't believe I wore that. Anyway, so I'm dealing with that idea. Then we're back into it, and it's heavy. It's heavier than you think, right? I mean, because now I guess I'm going to have to see people that I've been avoiding, and maybe I'll see you one day. Hopefully, email me first. Anyway, welcome to Emil Amok's Takeout. My takes on all things considerable. This is what I like to call a traditional radio news talk program. Where I pop open the mic, I tell you what's going on in life, I tell you what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, and you ordinarily would call some 800 number, right? I'd give you an 800 number, and then I'd play some commercials, and we talk. But no, I mean, you could go on chat if you're watching us on YouTube. You can go on chat. I don't really see the YouTube on chat. I see the chat if you're on Facebook. And if indeed you attempt to communicate, I will communicate back. And I've tried to do this with this show where I will take not calls, but if you want to give a voicemail, I guess I could. At some point, I'm trying to find the voicemail part here. If you want to leave a voicemail at 415-464-6645, 415-484-6645, I guess if it's a decent voicemail, I'll put it on at some point, but not immediately, not live. So what you're seeing live is me doing my reality podcast, my secret reality podcast, live on Facebook, on Twitter at Emil Amok, on YouTube at Emil Amok 1, just because we can, and because this is democracy at work, and there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Before we do, I'm going to talk about the White House crasher and the controversy there. I'm going to talk about, I did my column on Inquirer.net and on the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund on Tongi, the winner of American Idol. And isn't it funny? American Idol might have at best 7 million. I didn't see the actual ratings for the Sunday show, but the previous week they had about 6.5 million. And today in the Wall Street Journal, Disney's complaining that they're making more money off of their joyrides, off their, the amusement parks. And, they're making more money off real life entertainment rather than the fake entertainment of what they call linear TV. And they're trying to figure out how to make that work. They're also making less money from, streaming, so they're rejiggering that. But clearly, people are ready to bust out and go into life. They want to have an experience. So maybe we'll take this show live. Maybe that's it. We'll do the show live someday. Someday. I mean, I do go into theater. This coming Sunday, I'm going to be live in Oakland. That's right, in Oakland at the Oakland Asian Cultural Center, 388 9th Street. Boy, I might have thrown you 5 blocks off. 388 9th Street in Oakland, the Oakland Asian Cultural Center. It's called Strong Like Bamboo, and it's me with about 5 other storytellers in an afternoon of a kind of community exchange of sharing stories about, the pain of being Asian in this strange era of anti-Asian violence. And I tell a story. There's 5 other storytellers. We tell a story about discrimination and origin stories. And then there's going to be 2 short films. And there's going to be an opportunity, if you're there live, to break out into pods and to tell stories to each other. It's a feel-good event. It's also free. It's free. And all you have to do is register by going to www. Does anyone say that anymore? Go to eventbrite.com. Eventbrite, EVENTBRITE, eventbrite.com, and look for the Strong Like Bamboo event, May 28th, 2 to 5 p.m. in the afternoon. It's free at the Oakland Asian Cultural Center, 388 9th Street in Oakland. You can also see it online, but you're going to have to take an additional step and go to ethnotech.org and get the link, or go to my column at ALDEF, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, ALDEF, AALDEF.org/blog. Go to my current column with Tongi, go all the way to the bottom and click the link and get all the details there. But I'm going to be live, and I'm not going to be masked, and I hope you're there live too. A lot of people who appreciate this kind of thing are slightly older. They may feel that they are members of a group that is susceptible to, what remnants of the virus are out there. Certainly, I have shown how I am. I mean, I got my 6th vaccine. I mean, some people think that's nuts, but no, I'm proudly 6th vaccinated. So I'm out there on Sunday telling a story, and it's a story about how I was bullied. I'm telling a couple stories in one. It's all going to be like an 8-minute story. I think you'll like it. And I'll be joined by 5 other storytellers. So if you don't like mine, you'll hear others. And there'll be a panel discussion led by Russell Jung, who is a professor at the College of Ethnic Studies at San Francisco State University and a co-founder of Stop AAPI Hate. So we're going to have a big panel discussion with the other storytellers, elucidating about our stories and about, how that contributes, how see, stories are important because we show that no matter how you're feeling now as an Asian American, because of the post-pandemic world, because of the anti-Asian violence, hopefully you'll draw something from these stories and say, hey, we can overcome. Because I'm not telling the story as therapy. I'm telling the story as a sharing with you of something that happened to me. And the fact that I'm telling the story means I've overcome, means I've found a solution, or I've lived through it. And maybe in the panel discussion, we'll discuss what I learned. But stories are those things that make people say, yeah, I'm glad I heard that. I can deal with my story now. Or not only are you inspired to deal with your own situation, but you're inspired to tell your story as well. So, Strong Like Bamboo, May 28th, this coming Sunday, 2 to 5 p.m., free, Oakland Asian Cultural Center, 388 9th Street, second floor in Oakland's Chinatown. Check it out. Be there live. I'll be there live. And then, of course, you can also go to my Aldef blog post and check out the link if you just want to get the Zoom link and just want to see it remotely. You can do that. All right. So the big news today, you wake up. All right. Before I get to the big news about the White House crasher, because I got some things to share about that. I usually check my email first. And Jennifer Rubin, who is a columnist for the Washington Post, I like Jennifer Rubin. She's slightly more conservative for my taste, but she is now crossed over the line. I believe now she's a Democrat. She's one of the never Trumpers who said, hey, Republicanism doesn't make sense to me now. And now she's a moderate Democrat, which is great because a lot of moderate Democrats have gone further to the left. I've always liked her writing. I mean, it's appeared in newspaper media for some time now. But she writes several columns a day at the Washington Post. Prolific. That is Jennifer Rubin. So she wrote a column today about who should lead CNN, which struck me as odd because did something happen to Chris Licht? The guy who's leading CNN? No, this is just her opining, which I suppose is a real opinion. I mean, it's, some people are namby-pamby in their opinions and they don't really say anything. She's going out on a limb here saying, hey, this is who should lead CNN. It's not this guy, Chris Licht, the man who gave us the Trump town hall. And then she went on to say, yeah, I went to a Columbia Graduate School of Journalism graduation, and there was Christiane Amanpour, and she should be the president of CNN. She's a real journalist. It's a good column from that standpoint, right? It's a real opinion. It's not namby-pamby. It's kind of speculative, but that's where you really go out on a limb. So I respect her for that. But if you've heard my take on the CNN town hall, because that's what this is really a criticism about, it's that, darn it, there are still people who are upset with the CNN town hall with Donald Trump, think it never should have happened, and they find Chris Licht's his explanation to be weak because he said he's running for president. We need to hear from him. And other people said, no, that's the wrong thing because you put him in the wrong context. You put him in the wrong kind of venue. You had him run over poor Caitlin Collins, although I think she comported herself well. I have to admit that the moment of truth was when Donald Trump called her a nasty person. She stood up to him, but she did not walk away. She did not, excuse me, Mr. Trump, you may have been president, but you cannot get away with that kind of talk in this civil conversation that we're trying to have. I'm a journalist. I am not a nasty person. If you're going to sink to that kind of ad hominem, then we're going to end this right now. Now, Caitlin Collins didn't have that. She didn't have that. That wasn't one of her options. She's also younger, and I think she's a great reporter. But you put someone that young against Trump, and Trump is going to run over you. Okay, so I still think it was a good idea to have the town hall. It was just a bad idea to not let it have the kind of guardrails to keep it on track, and to not let an audience that was free to hoot and holler and yell, sound off. I mean, in a debate, you can say, look, please refrain from any noises and cheers, because that only takes away from the debate. That's what they say in order to curtail that. But in this, it was just Trump and Caitlin Collins, and people are still talking about it, because if you're against this, you say, why did CNN give Trump that kind of free reign to roll over Caitlin Collins and say anything he wanted, and essentially forcing CNN to fact check Trump in real time, which you're going to have to do anyway. So in some ways, good points, but in some ways, the people who say, look, he's running for president, he's a newsmaker, we're going to talk to him, we're going to interview him, they're right too, to a point. But where they should have done better is they should have kept journalistic control, because once it went off the rails, it was off the rails. They couldn't get it back. They tried. I mean, to Caitlin Collins' credit. So here's the thing. Trump has made news off of this because CNN made news off of it. Not necessarily good, because you see there's a lot of criticism about CNN. Today, E. Jean Carroll has filed for more. She wants to add on to the punitive damages that she was awarded in her suit against Trump, because Trump, at the town hall, called her a wacko. So there was news coming out of this. It was worth having. But now I was thinking about this, because I see both sides. I see the side that says Trump never should have been given a platform. But I also see Chris Lick's side that, hey, he's running for president. My thinking was, it was a good idea as long as they kept control. They lost control. And so here's the compromise. The compromise is no crowd, no audience. Because with the audience, it was like, as one fellow wrote, I think in the Atlantic, called it it was the second coming of the Jerry Springer show. But I think this is what I've been thinking about this, because we're still talking about the town hall, and people think it was an affront to journalism. And I feel especially not defensive, but look, what I'm doing here in News Talk is I take from the news, I read about the news, I'll give a comment, I'll give my opinion. It's a kind of oral reported opinion. It's still based in journalism, because just like an opinionated column, I'm taking from news sources. I'm not lying. I'm not making anything up. But here's where I think CNN, after thinking about this town hall bit, this is where I think CNN went wrong. Where CNN went wrong is, I know they said they wanted to interview the president, or the former president, because he's running. But were they after the truth, or were they after his audience? And that's the question. If CNN really wanted the truth, would it have staged this town hall? Because it was a staging. And some journalists with a capital J would have a problem with that. They'll say, oh, wait, what is this? But were they after the truth, or were they after Trump and the audience that he brings immediately? Automatically, Trump brings an audience. And I think if you ask CNN that question, if they were honest, they would say, we got low ratings. No one watches us. The cable news audience is up for grabs since Tucker Carlson left or got fired. Yeah, I guess we want his audience. If they were honest, they'd say that. Of course, they'll say anything but that, because that is the way people are, and that's why the news is the way it is, because you can get someone to say that. You'd have to say, according to sources close to the situation. That's the only way you can get anyone to say that, to admit that. They'd never admit that. But that really is the truth. The truth is CNN wasn't interested in the truth. They were interested in Trump's audience. And honestly, you think about it, yeah, CNN, if CNN wanted the truth, totally different kind of thing. But they wanted Trump's audience. And so that brought me back over to Jennifer Rubin's side, that it was not a great display, but it has been the gift that keeps on giving. We're still talking about it after a couple weeks. But like I said, for me, it clarified the issue, because at first blanch, I was with CNN. I said, well, what's the problem? Trump's running. But for the same reason why you don't often see them covering a Trump rally at CNN, they might now. Like I said, they're not after the truth. They're after the audience. So I have come down on the side of Jennifer Rubin here, but only because I think CNN kind of lost the goal. Journalism is about truth telling. Journalism is about truth seeking. I don't think they were after the truth so much as they were Trump's audience. So Rubin in her column talks about how Christiane Amanpour would have been perfect, or she'd be the perfect leader. You need a journalist who is a leader of this thing that became, it was the first to bring forth 24-hour cable. I remember when it started. I was working in local news, and Ted Turner comes in. Actually, I liked the first group of guys from CNN because they were heavy into local news, and we would sell our stories done in local news and ship them off to CNN, and they'd run them. I mean, God, that was like what, the 1980s, over 40 years ago. But how things have changed. The leader of CNN, well, Ted Turner was the owner, but the leaders have always been journalists, generally. Chris Licht, I think he's more a showrunner. I don't know if he's out and out. I mean, he did CBS Morning News, but he also did the Colbert Show. More producer. This is the thing about television news, a kind of hybrid thing. And frankly, the greatest news show to exist, right? 60 Minutes. They were only on prime time because people realized that, hey, we can make money off this, right? Don Hewitt, the most famous producer, coming out of 60 Minutes, right? You had the formula. We could do the news. You don't have to pay, a king's ransom for any number of stars and starlets. You can tell the news, and people will show up to watch it if you tell them the best stories that they need to know. And it cost nothing. And they made millions upon millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars through the years at 60 Minutes. And it spawned all the magazine shows that aren't as successful because they didn't have people who believed in the news. They had people who believed in all these other things, like, well, maybe we can have John Quinones go out and ask, why, how do you know? Or what, that spin-off. Or maybe we'll send Chris Hansen off to find a predator. Because it's showbiz, right? It's news, but it's showbiz. Only 60 Minutes is kept true to that. I mean, you could do showbiz stories or soft stories. They're called the features. And Sherry Alfonsi does her share of them, right? I mean, she's always with some star or starlet or whatever. They do this. There's some 60 Minutes people who specialize in that sort of thing. And then there's old Bill Whitaker, doing the hard stories. Have to be out in the field. So I watch it occasionally. I've watched it forever. But anyway, Christian Amanpour as the head could happen. I mean, it might. I mean, it's not a bad idea. But there was an example of a Jennifer Rubin opinion piece making the suggestion of why news should stick to its guns. Right? You're news. You're a news. Stick with news. Well, easier said than done. Chris Licht has he's got to right this ship. He's trying to. Maybe the town hall was a misstep, but he was trying. It was a misstep until the crowd took over and egged on Trump, and Trump became Trump here. All right, so let's get into some other things, because God, I just went on Jennifer Rubin. Let's talk about the White House crash, right? I mean, this is a big story because you got a 19-year-old charged with threatening to kill, kidnap, or inflict harm on the president, vice president, or their family after allegedly ramming a truck into bollards. I didn't know they call them bollards. Barriers outside a park near the White House. Now, here's the thing. They named the guy Sai Varshith Kandula. See his picture? He's a South Asian man. Clearly South. I mean, a lot of people on social media are saying, oh, he's not white. Well, he's not Hispanic. He's not white. He's South Asian. Sai Varshith Kandula. He intentionally crashed a U-Haul box truck into barriers outside Lafayette Park. This was last night. And they found a Nazi flag from the truck. And they found that maybe, they're trying to figure out what he's doing. It's unclear. But a lot of people are speculating in social media. This guy Kandula is from a St. Louis suburb of Chesterfield. I lived in St. Louis, and as the saying goes, they're having it all at Chesterfield Mall. I don't know if they still say that, but they were saying that about 40 years ago. He graduated from Marquette Senior High School. His friends are saying that, suggesting maybe there was some mental health issue here. He was a coder, certified in programming, smart kid. He allegedly waved the flag and shouted. He had a Nazi flag, and as he exited the truck before officers arrived to detain him, he was shouting, told officers that he wanted to seize power, take over the government, kill the president, according to sources to news agencies, which somehow suggests maybe this guy was not well. So it's right to report this, and it's you can speculate, but I think it's wrong if you speculate that this was some kind of hoax or false flag. It's not a hoax. We saw it. He might not have been acting alone. We don't know that. The investigation is ongoing. We have, according to news reports I'm looking at, right-wing pundits, including Donald Trump Jr. I don't know. Right-wing pundit. I wouldn't call Donald Trump Jr. a right-wing pundit. I call him a right-wing news personality. He falsely and I think you need to say falsely because we don't know, suggests that news organizations are labeling the crash as a white supremacist type of action in an attempt to undermine both the attack and threats of white supremacist violence. I think Donald Trump Jr. is wrong. It's not a hoax. It's real. Here it is. Now, to what degree this guy acted alone? Was it a mental health issue? Was he truly a lone, lone person here? Or maybe he was there to throw people off. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't acting alone. We don't know. But I think it's irresponsible to call it a false flag or hoax. I'm not calling it a false flag or hoax. I'm calling it a sign that, well, just take it at face value. If it was a guy of South Asian descent with a Nazi flag, if he was over 30 or 40, I'd say, what's going on here? But the kid's 19. So that can mean anything. He's just graduated out of high school. And just like any other 18 or 19-year-old who's susceptible to gun culture, I don't know. But a Nazi flag, if the guy was into guns, if the guy was into a kind of Americanism, it would show a diversity that exists in white supremacy or that exists in that kind of ultra right-wing violence circles, but can't rule it out. And you've heard people today on the news from, Jewish organizations saying, yeah, we've seen people of color in white supremacist organizations. So it's not totally, it's illogical, but it's plausible, I think, considering the guy's age. Just graduated from Marquette Senior High School in Chesterfield, Missouri, 2022. And frankly, Missouri is, have you been to Missouri lately? It's not a liberal hotbed, that's for sure. So we'll wait before passing judgment, but we do know that Sai Varshith Kandula, South Asian American man, 18, arrested after it appears that he intentionally crashed his U-Haul box truck just outside Lafayette Park in D.C. Not jumping to conclusions, but certainly not trying to suggest that this was any kind of false flag. I think if you do that, that's wrong. I don't think this is a false flag. Not at all. Okay, yesterday and today, if you read theinquirer.net, I did write about Ian Tongi. And here's the thing about Ian Tongi. He's a talented guy. It reminds me of Brother Is, right? The guy who sang Somewhere Over the Rainbow, the Hawaiian slack key style, right? I just think it's a kind of infectious style that people fall in love with. Now, should he have been American Idol? He won the votes. This was not just a contest where it's the most talented person based on the votes from America. There was something, he won like 16 million votes, which, I mean, I guess this is the thing in America where people are going to question any kind of voting, even for American Idol. But reading an article in the New York Post, I was surprised there were people yesterday who said Not only was he the youngest male to ever win the competition, first Asian American, first AANHPI to win during AANHPI month. I thought it was cause for celebration, but apparently there's some people who says Tongi's remarks came after several viewers claimed the entire competition was rigged in the high school senior's favor, and his win was due to a sympathy vote. Oh, man. Since his initial audition for Idol 3 months ago, the Hawaiian Natives video has racked up 16 million views, making it the top video on the show's YouTube page. Like, it's not sympathy. It's just the guy is talented. He sings well. He sings with emotion. He sings with a kind of phrasing that is world class. And when people claim that it's rigged, I don't know if that's not racist in some way. Because, what should American Idol be? I don't know who made the claim or made the who complained that Iam Tongi was the guy, but he beat out this Southern Belle from Georgia with the sweet voice. But no matter how, he actually had a kind of a gritty lilt, a gritty Dolly Parton lilt to it. Good singer, and also young, 19 years old, Megan Danielle. She's going to be a big star regardless of whether or not she won. But she has her lane, the country western lane, and Iam Tongi has this kind of, I know when Brother Is had Somewhere Over the Rainbow, that was a global success. And I think people saw why that was when you saw Iam Tongi sing his songs. And I think the most effective one, I think he had some originals, but he also sang Monster by James Blunt, which was just dedicated to his father. He had all the sympathy factors going for him, but that's not why he won. He won because he was talented. End of story. But interesting, because I hadn't seen these stories about people claiming it was not rigged. I think 23 million people voted. I think I got that confused. 16 million actually have seen his video. Iam Tongi. I think, look, he's a big star already, but I think he's going to be a bigger star. How's that? All right. A couple other things. I'm not going to go too long today. Hey, now this was not in the front page of the Wall Street Journal, but it's a story that we need to understand because it's going to tell you something about where we are as a country. It was on page 2 of the Journal this morning. Headline, Immigrants' share of labor hits high. Native-born workers' slice is shrinking as retirements rise and newcomers fill the gap. I'm just going to read the lead. Foreign-born workers' share of the U.S. labor force rose the last part in the highest to the highest level in 27 years of records as labor demand surged and the pandemic faded. Highest in 27 years. I mean, this is a big deal. Society's changing. People are retiring. Millennials and younger folks don't want to work. Gen Z doesn't want to work. We need immigration. We need people taking the jobs, not just the bad jobs, but any job, right? I mean, that's what it boils down to. People born outside the U.S. made up 18.2% of the overall labor force, up from 17.4% the prior year, and the highest level in data back to 1996, the Labor Department said in its annual report on foreign-born workers. The number of immigrants in the labor force, those working or actively looking for jobs, rose by 1.8 million or 6.3% to 29.8 million in 2022. This is the future workforce in America. They're coming to America for a reason. They're coming because they want opportunity. This is the new opportunity. Your immigration, if you're an immigrant, you came here for opportunity. There were jobs. These are the jobs for a new generation, and the share of the labor market higher than ever. I think when you see people crossing the border and you see people being anti-immigrant, you see people being xenophobic, you see people saying, go back home, not here, we need these people to fill the labor force. Same old story. Same old story. And I think the quicker that the United States gets that sense, I think we'd be better off. You won't see the same kind of backbiting. You won't see the same kind of xenophobic fears playing out. I mean, you'll see people reacting to the reality, which is a generation of people is departing the workforce. New people, native born, aren't coming in fast enough. We need immigrants to fill the gap. That's as simple as it gets. That was page A2 in the Wall Street Journal today, which means important for people to know, but we'll hide it just in case. Maybe people won't see that. And then, when they start saying their xenophobic nonsense, they'll, maybe they'll find this story and say, oh, you know what? We kind of need those people. Those people are helpful. Those people are necessary in the U.S. economy. And then we better be thinking about how to make sure these people are well integrated into society and become citizens and pay their taxes and get benefits, because a lot of people pay their taxes and don't get benefits because it's been harder to become documented. It's been harder to become part of American life when xenophobic policies make sure you're kept out. Okay, I'm going to mention one more thing. A couple more things. I want to mention Tim Scott. When he announced yesterday, I saw part of it. Most of the news hit today. You probably saw it in the papers. Tim Scott, South Carolina senator, wants to be president. Donald Trump has said some nice things about him. Donald Trump said, the race is rapidly loading up with lots of people, and Tim is a big step up from Ron DeSanctimonious, who is totally unelectable. I got opportunity zones done with Tim, a big deal that has been highly successful. That's what Trump wrote in Truth Social. So Trump is chumming up to Tim Scott because Trump knows the more people come in, it waters down the Republican vote. But he's not above dumping on Ron DeSantis, which he should. DeSantis deserves to be dumped on. But that's why Trump can afford to be nice to Tim Scott, because Tim Scott doesn't have a chance. But I think this is where Trump, who appeared virtually before court to sort of figure out what he can or can't say, the judge wanted him in at a hearing. Trump may not be the nominee, but Trump acts like he is. He's got so many legal problems that I don't know how any American can vote for Donald Trump. But say the world gets saner between now and, the time we really get into the 2024 campaign, Tim Scott's not bad. African American, a little conservative. He's keeping his message very positive. And the positive message is really kind of, it's really American, right? He's this 57-year-old South Carolina senator who says, let's see, let me get a quote. He says, "For those of you who wonder if it's possible for a broken kid from a broken home to rise beyond their circumstances, the answer is yes. For those of you who wonder if America is a racist country, take a look," he said, gesturing to his black mother and the white wife of his late mentor, who stood beside him, hugging as he spoke. Scott, so far, has negligible support with GOP primary voters. It's like 1%. When he is included in polls, he registers in the low single digits. Compared with Trump, Scott started the campaign with 22 million cash on hand, according to his aide. So he has money to stay around. But he's going to sell this idea that America is not racist because here's a black man. I can testify America's not racist. Look at me. Okay, we look at you. You're not on assistance. You're not living in a trailer park or a public home. But you are you, Tim Scott. What are you doing for others? How are you helping others who are not as fortunate? I mean, that's going to be the question. And also, look, Tim Scott versus Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis doesn't want you to learn anything negative about America. He's excising it from textbooks. He's taking it out of curricula. He's defunding diversity, equity, and inclusive programs in higher ed in Florida. He's taking away books in the Florida K through 12s. I mean, that's what autocrats do when they are starting their upward rise. At least Tim Scott is saying, hey, look, I'm a product of this crazy ass society we have called America. Isn't it great? Can a poor black person rise? Yeah, look at me. I'm a senator. But once again, that's just him. How's he going to lift everyone else up? You know, the old saying about affirmative action. You know, affirmative action is like taking the elevator up. Just don't forget to send it back down. Now, is Tim Scott sending it back down for everyone else to vote for him and come up? Or is he just saying, hey, I'm Tim Scott. I'm here. Vote for me wherever you are. And not sending the elevator up or down so it can come back up. I mean, that's kind of the question. So it's an open question on Tim Scott, whether that's going to be good. It's good that he's there. But one thing, you need someone like a Tim Scott who represents, say, an acceptable adult view. I don't always agree with Tim Scott. I have violently disagreed with him in the past. But compared to Ron DeSantis, Tim Scott seems reasonable. Compared to others out there, isn't it interesting that a lot of people from South Carolina are choosing to run? Nikki Haley being chief among them, former governor. I guess does Haley or does Scott sort of split the Haley vote? At some point, you got to wonder, okay, if they're in it to win it, yeah, but maybe not. Maybe they're in it to be VP. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say this. I think if Tim Scott hangs in there and Donald Trump is the candidate for the Republicans, maybe Tim Scott becomes a VP. Maybe. I'm just saying that I think that might be a likely outcome. But then again, I'd really rather not see Donald Trump win the nomination for the Republican Party. Although barring any real challenger outside of DeSantis, it's hard to imagine. DeSantis sort of brings his own self down. No one else has enough to challenge Trump. It's hard to believe that there's anyone who's going to emerge who's going to say, hey, I'm better than Trump. I'm going to be out there. Just hard to believe. In the meantime, there was a poll out today. I saw that a lot of people were very upset that the only choices are Trump and Biden, which is, look, a lot of people who are Democrats are anti-Biden, but they shouldn't be. He's done a lot. I think he deserves to finish out, or he deserves the second term and finish out the full complement of two-term presidency. I've said that before. All right, a couple more things. Basketball tonight. LeBron James yesterday lost. I have to admit, I was surprised how many misses he has. I mean, he misses a lot. It's not like a highlight reel. He missed a couple layups. It could have made a difference. He missed a couple threes. He missed on that last shot where he was driving to the lane and got stuffed by Gordon and by the other guy. Denver's really great player. The guard, not Jokic. Murray and Gordon had LeBron the end all tied up. He couldn't get that shot off to try to close a gap, a 2-point gap. So sad for LeBron. I think as long as he can play a quarter, he'll play. I mean, because he wants to play with his son. His son can't play till 2024. So he's going to hang in there. I don't think he's going to go. But it's sad because people look at LeBron and see LeBron circa 10, 15 years ago when they should be seeing LeBron circa now. And LeBron circa now is just the guy who was the great LeBron James, but is now historically the greatest basketball player who ever played, except he's not that great on a lot of nights these days. He's okay. He scored 40 points, which should be great enough, but basketball is a team game. And he couldn't do it alone. So I'm not sad for LeBron. I mean, he's going to make it. He just can't play as much, right? Play every other quarter, play every other game, if that. He could still play, just not a lot. So tonight, Miami got to root for Eric Spoelstra, the Filipino-American coach, because he's a lot better coach than the guy from Boston. Boston's down 3-0. They got to come back. I don't think they're going to do it in Miami. I think the home court advantage is too much. And I think after being blown out, they're embarrassed. They want to go home. They don't want to come back and fight. So Miami taking care of it in 4. And then it's Miami and Denver. And I just think after Denver dispatched the Lakers, who can bet against Denver? All right, one last item. And I saw it in Axios. They had a trans youth prom in Washington yesterday. And it was not sad to see it. It was actually a good thing to see it. It was because it reminded me that there are a lot of young people out there who they've come forward and they said, yeah, this is who I am. And they're so discriminated against. And in an event like the trans prom, they are able to be heard. They're just kids, right? But the trans youth prom at the U.S. Capitol yesterday, I saw pictures of it. It's cool. You got these And these aren't like teenagers. I mean, they are, some of them are teenagers, but there are a lot of really young, like I would say, just judging for the pictures, some under 12, some 12 to 15, 16. These weren't like prom age kids who prom age is usually 17, 18. I mean, these were like some younger kids than that, holding up signs that say trans kids have always existed. And you know they have. They just didn't have a way to say who they were, what they're about. And now they do. And now people have begun to understand them. And now that's why you're seeing the backlash against trans kids. Here's another sign. Trans kids have always existed. That's the same one. Trans youth are powerful. That's an important sign. That's a democracy, right? It's just that they shouldn't have to be fighting to be trans. I mean, that's their business. But they should be fighting for the rights of trans youth to do X, Y, or Z. That's a separate issue from, do I have a right to exist as a trans person? Yes, you have a right to. Yes, trans people have always existed. Yes, you're powerful. Yes, you can go out there and demonstrate. But that shouldn't be necessary, because your right to choose who you are shouldn't be politicized. What's politicized is, should you let a trans man compete with other men, or should you let a trans woman compete with other women in women's sports? That's an issue you could debate. You know, should a trans person be allowed to use a public facility? I mean, that's something you could debate. You don't debate, should a trans person be allowed to exist? That's not a debate. That's called hate. Should a trans person be heard? You know, it's ridiculous. Of course they should. They're here. They're in this democracy of ours. So I have to admit, I was really quite taken by the trans prom and reports of the trans prom. And I saw it on Axios. You probably can Google pictures of the trans prom, because they're people. They're people with rights. Debate other trans issues, like, should trans people be given college scholarships? I mean, I guess you name an issue that involves trans, and those kind of issues you can debate. It's not debatable whether trans people should exist. Of course they exist. Of course they should exist. Of course they should. Okay. That's it for our show today. Thank you for listening. Here Monday through Friday, because unlike CNN in their town hall, I am only looking for the truth. I'm not looking for Trump's audience. I'm not looking for an audience. Maybe you're here. I don't know. Maybe I'm just looking to tell the truth. We're here Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, live. It's a traditional news talk show where I get up and I just tell you my opinion. And you can talk back if you're on Facebook chat. And if you're on YouTube chat, which I do not see concurrently, or I don't see contemporaneously, I will mention it. Or if you want to leave me a voicemail, 415-484-6645. 415-484-6645. Leave a voicemail. I'll put it on. And if it says something, but ordinarily it's just me coming up here and talking, which I think is the preferred way. I think. Okay. Let's see. Okay, we mentioned the basketball game. Got a lot of stuff to do tonight. Oh, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, regular listeners also know I like to meditate. That loving kindness, it's all about breathing. And just to get in the flow, you got to breathe. I've been practicing my formulas. I think 2 seconds in, 4 seconds out. I think that's 2 seconds deep breath in, 4 seconds out. I think that's the way. Do 2 of those, calms you down. Ideal. Perfect. All right. Meditation, loving kindness. It's always about self-love. Self-love. And then you send it out. Send it out to others first. And then it comes back. That's the way it works. I'm just telling you, that's the way it works. Emil Guillermo here. As I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Till next time. Mahal